For almost 3 decades, Need for Speed was the undisputed king of arcade racing. It defined car culture for an entire generation, gave us the greatest police chases in gaming history, and sold tens of millions of copies. But right now, the streets are empty. In 2025, EA officially put the Need for Speed franchise on indefinite hold, taking the developers off the track and throwing them into the battlefield trenches. So, how did a franchise that once sold over 18 million copies with a single game fall so hard that EA had to pull the plug? Today, we are looking at the massive rise, the chaotic identity crisis, and the tragic fall of the Need for Speed franchise. Let's get right into it. To understand the fall, you have to respect the rise. Back in 1994, the original Need for Speed set a massive technical benchmark. It blended realistic vehicle physics with licensed supercars and 3D environments that blew people's minds. But the franchise truly found its soul with Hot Pursuit and High Stakes in the late 90s, introducing the iconic cop versus racer dynamic. Then, the 2000s hit. Street racing culture exploded thanks to the Fast and the Furious, and EA Black Box caught lightning in a bottle. They dropped Underground in 2003 and Underground 2 in 2004, giving players deep vehicle customization, open-world exploration, and an untouchable nighttime street racing atmosphere. Then came 2005. Need for Speed Most Wanted was released, and it became a global phenomenon. It perfectly blended the customization of Underground with the most intense, aggressive police pursuit mechanics gaming had ever seen. It sold over 18 million copies. EA Black Box was on top of the world. But that massive success is exactly what doomed them. EA looked at the massive sales numbers and made a fatal corporate decision. Need for Speed had to be an annual yearly release. This aggressive mandate immediately led to massive creative burnout for EA Black Box. They were forced to rush development, and the cracks started to show. By 2007, Pro Street abandoned the open-world illegal street racing formula for legal track days, completely alienating the hardcore fan base. From 2009 to 2012, the franchise fractured into a massive identity crisis. Shift tried to compete with Gran Turismo as a hardcore track simulator, while Criterion Games stepped in to make a Most Wanted reboot that literally just felt like a Burnout game with licensed cars. There was no consistency. Fans didn't know what a Need for Speed game was supposed to be anymore. The sales dipped, the magic was lost, and in 2013, EA officially shut down EA Black Box, effectively ending the golden era of the franchise forever. With Black Box dead, the keys were handed to Ghost Games. They had the impossible task of returning the series to its roots. But instead of focusing purely on gameplay, the corporate monetization strategies took over. The 2015 reboot had potential, but it was plagued by a highly controversial, always-online requirement that ruined the single-player experience. Then came Need for Speed Payback in 2017, which severely damaged the brand's reputation. Instead of winning races to buy car parts, progression was locked behind a literal slot machine loot box system. It was aggressive monetization at its worst. Even though Need for Speed Heat arrived in 2019 and actually gave fans a glimmer of hope with great customizations and a solid day-night cycle, the damage to the brand's reputation was already done. The studio structures were shifting, and the overall player trust was at an all-time low. That brings us to the final nail in the coffin. In 2022, EA released Need for Speed Unbound. They tried a massive visual risk, blending realistic cars with stylized, anime-inspired cel-shaded character models and driving effects. While some players praised the fresh art style, the core gameplay loop suffered from technical issues, a cringe-worthy story, and repetitive pacing. The public interest completely flatlined. Unbound suffered a devastating 64% drop in sales compared to Heat. EA had seen enough. Facing completely overwhelming competition from heavyweights like Forza Horizon, EA officially paused Need for Speed development in 2025. The dedicated racing teams were dissolved and reallocated to work on the Battlefield franchise, while industry insiders rumor that the franchise might attempt a comeback in 2027 or 2028. The truth is clear. Until EA decides to prioritize genuine developer passion and community feedback over forced annual releases and profit-driven monetization, Need for Speed is going to stay parked in the garage.